Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Today's article has to do with Estonia and Russia. Estonia, as you probably know, is a European Union member as well as a NATO member. Probably you also know that Estonia is a Baltic state together with Latvia and Lithuania, and they were very, very vocal in criticizing Russia in general and Russia-Ukraine war in particular, together with Poland. And we have an article here where things get a little bit uh, heated. Let's say that's an escalation from words to some action. And Estonia is a little bit concerned, to put it mildly, of Russian actions. So this article comes from Business Insider from June 22nd, 2022. And this is the title. A Russian military helicopter crossed into NATO territory for 2 minutes, further ramping up tensions with the bloc. A Russian Mi-8, not Mi-6, Mi-8 helicopter crossed into NATO member Estonia on Saturday, the country said. The intrusion came days before a major NATO summit in Madrid, Spain. Putin has long seen NATO as a threat, citing it as a justification to invade Ukraine this year. Now, this last sentence is very, very interesting. And it's interesting because lately, the American mass media, and not only British, Western corporate media, let's put it this way, started using certain language and certain they insert certain facts in their reporting. Before, this sentence would not be there. Instead, it would be due to unprovoked and unjustified invasion of Ukraine. This is how it used to be about 2 weeks ago. Since 2 weeks ago, I started noting that they changed the tune. They, I don't want to say balance it, but they at least show a little bit of the other side's um, opinion or whatever the statements, which doesn't have to be necessarily true, but true in reality that it's okay. They did it because of this, but at least mention what they claim, like the other ones claim something else. So that's how you do it. And anyway, Estonia, a NATO country, said a Russian military helicopter briefly crossed into its territory last Saturday, suggesting Russia was further threatening the military bloc and lashing out at its closest neighbors. Now we know that Estonia was very critical and inserted itself very much in the Ukraine-Russia operation, war, invasion, however you want to call it, and without being asked. But I think it was asked by someone else to provoke as much as they can Russia, and as Lithuania as well. Lithuania moreover than Estonia. Remember, Lithuania, so the Baltic states, Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia, all together, the population is about 5 million people. That's a city. So 3 countries, a city. Nevertheless, Estonia Defense Ministry said Tuesday that a Russian Mi-8 helicopter entered the region of Koidula without permission for 2 minutes on Saturday, adding that it was one of a number of recent aerial intrusions by Russia. Well, why didn't they do what Erdogan did in Syria? They used some F-16 provided by the United States, and with the United States' approval, shot I think it was a MiG or Sukhoi 24, something like that. I think it was MiG-24 and something like that. And as you probably know, I just found out during those that actually NATO member states that are provided with American fighter jets, like let's say F-16s, they could not take off unless they have the approval of some United States military control center, a decision center. So those Turks could not take off, cannot use it unless they inform the Americans, and Americans give them green light that they can take off with their own planes. Own planes. It's like I sell you a product, a car, but you can't drive it. Every time you drive it, you have to call me or text me or whatever you want to do, contact me, and I have to give you my approval for you to take off with your car and start driving. It's very, very interesting. Well, it says here that the helicopter intrusion into Estonia comes days ahead of a major NATO summit in Madrid, set for June 29th. Now, if it was an intrusion, obviously that's a big deal. It's your territory and so on. That should be discussed, that should be condemned, that should be, talked about. But under the current circumstances, I don't know, it's still bad, but the thing remains, what are you going to do about it? Talk? I don't think the talk would solve. They will do it again. I think this is a provocation from the Russian side, or a little bit of, I can do whatever I want and you're not going to do anything about it. You try to push it further, see how far you can go, and we'll see. Helicopters intrusion into Estonia comes days ahead of that summit. Now, NATO members are expected to discuss how the new bloc can strengthen its eastern flank due to Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin has long stated that NATO's expansion poses a threat to Russia's national threat, poses a threat to Russian national threat. All right, probably. And used it as a justification to invade Ukraine earlier this year. Again, this paragraph here, this long sentence, again tells what those guys said. I haven't seen this in articles before, and if they were mildly put like this, at the end always they add, the reality, so you remain with whatever they say at the end of the article, which the brain remembers best. The last part of an article and the first, or a story. The last and the first, not the middle. In May, Russia's neighbor Finland, which applied to join NATO that month in light of Russia's invasion, again, inserted itself in the whole thing. So Russia invaded Ukraine because Ukraine would become a NATO state, and then Finland, which is another NATO state, decided to join NATO so could be invaded. Is that the reason why, one of the reasons why Russia claims it invaded Ukraine? Because of NATO? Maybe getting Ukraine as a member? And then what Finland does the exact thing that it's not supposed to aggravate those guys. So I don't know, it's a provocation? What is this? And nevertheless, so it says here that applied to join NATO, Finland, that month in light of Russian invasion, said a Russian Mi-17 helicopter entered its airspace, though the Nordic country said it was not a serious provocation. The Estonian intrusion comes as Russia is also threatening Lithuania, another of its neighbors. Earlier this week, Lithuania, which is an EU and NATO member, refused to let Russian steel and iron ore materials pass through its territory to the Russian enclave city of Kaliningrad, telling Moscow that it would be violating EU sanctions if it did. So following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February, the EU banned member states from letting a wide array of Russian exports, including coal, metals, construction materials, and tech goods into the bloc. It says here that Nikolai Patrushev, Secretary of Russia's Security Council, said a decision to block goods will have a serious negative impact on the population of Lithuania. So they are really, how should I put it, what did you expect, Baltic states? Now, Baltic states, Lithuania said, well, we do what the European Union told us to do and so on. Okay, you do that, and we're not going to have a problem with Brussels. We're going to have a problem with you. That's when you are so independent. But remember, the sanctions were voted by you too. So you can't just point at the European Union as a whole and hide behind numbers. This is what, for instance, Poland and the Baltic states do. They yell and they talk, they provoke, verbal provocations, and then if you come to smack them, they do this because they are under the umbrella of United States, NATO, and European Union. by themselves, they will keep quiet and mind their own business and try to be friends with everybody. But like this, no, they think they have a big thing and now they can do stuff. And then Russia said, you know what, it was European Union, but you also voted for the sanctions because there has to be unanimity. Unanimity in voting for the sanctions, and we know that. So you voted for it, so you don't tell me it was Brussels or the European Union. It was you. You voted, you agreed with that. So you're gonna, I don't know, there are gonna be some consequences. Now, what the consequences would be? Could be mild or could be severe. And if there's going to be a big escalation, I'm pretty sure the West or the few Western countries, is Great Britain and United States, I'm not talking about France, Italy, and Germany, they will not move a finger if Russia escalates it to the maximum, if you know what I mean. Not with AK-47s and tanks and airplanes. If they go all the way with one, if they're crazy to do that, you know, with one, nobody will move, everybody will freeze. And everything will stop and say, okay, now we broke it again. What are we going to do? It's 1945, August 6th and August 8th again. What are we going to do? And I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be friends at that point and say, okay, we went way too far. Because they're not going to want. Do you think that Boris Johnson or Biden would say, okay, I don't know, Boris Johnson is 1,000 years old, so he might not give a damn about if he's going up or down. That doesn't care. But for other people, they still want to, they have their lives ahead. So then I think they're not going to move a finger. What are they going to do? Start a nuclear war with these guys? So nevertheless, we'll find out. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart for the truth, and be just.